Welcome back to my ongoing video series on patching the generative PolyKrell. In the last few videos, we've taken a real turn to the complex in that I demonstrated how I've unpatched the original dope for ribbon that we were using as our single form control voltage to control a number of different parameters across the whole 9-voice polyphonic 5-Krell patch, and to supplement that with a number of different sequencers, some 8-step, some 4-step, and some gate sequencers, all running in sync and slowly enough that they can create a form to the ongoing Krell madness over several minutes. Right now, we are listening to the counterpart voice, the bass voice, and at some points, one of the polyphonic telharmonic voices will kick in. And we are watching the counterpart voice as it changes up its filter type. Now, because I've switched to sequencers, I have the luxury of using the Tip-Top Z8000 sequencer, and I'm using channel 2 of that to select 4 different filter types throughout its whole length of step sequences. And I can get it to call up whatever filter type I like and then set the morphing either by voltage control or manually so that it crossfades from one filter type to the other, depending on what kind of timbres I want as I'm going. Now, around about this time, some of you might be wondering, how on earth do I keep track of all of this? Because I've got a lot of destinations, and I now have a lot of sources that are controlling those destinations, some of them being correlated with the multiple destinations at once. So typically what I'll do in a piece like this is I'll create a little score that I can use to keep track of. And we're just going to take a quick look at what that looks like. So this is my example score for the Krellberg variations, and I designed it and printed it out, but it's a little bit like a regular piece of score paper in that it's a stave, and then there's multiple staves or multiple sheets under it. In this case, what I've done is I've divided the score into 2 halves. There's the musical content part, which is the musical stave on top, that I use just to capture what pitches in the quantizer scale I want for that section. And you may recall from our last couple of videos that I described that there are 4 sequenced scale types that happen before the whole thing repeats. And so that's why we see 4 different, almost like bars or sections in our musical score. And then under that, there's a whole detailed list of all the different sequences and gate trigger streams that are running. And then in there, I'm able to write in what it is that they're controlling, so that if I were to change up the patch, I can just go and customize it to do whatever I like. And that section is divided into 2 halves. The top half being the sequencers that have 8 steps. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and the bottom half being the Z8000 sequence that is 4 steps. And you can see in there I've kind of scribbled in where it is I've got things going, what I've got things controlling, and then what ranges, usually as a percentage, although they could be a specific voltage, or they could be, in some cases it's just on and off, or it might be a more descriptive term like bright or dark, long, short, that kind of thing that I write in there. But that's sort of what I do to help me keep track of it. And then if I'm recording this same patch, but across multiple pieces, or across multiple movements, then I will use multiple pieces of this score paper just to capture the changes that I'm making, just so I can keep track of it. That way I don't have to follow cables around and take a look and see what each sequence is doing as I get there. Typically my pattern or my technique for setting up a complicated sequence like this is I'll let it run, and like I was saying in the previous video, normally it would run slower than I've got it running now for demonstration purposes. It could take anywhere of, upwards 10 minutes to run through the whole sequence to give us a chance to hear each little section develop. And then I'll just let it run and tweak it with the score in my hand as I go till I get everything lined up the way that I like. But I can really only start to do that once I've got to the stage where I've got all the voices sounding the way I like. They're all tuned as closely as I can get them tuned, and their controlling voltages are all tuned so that everything is being modulated within the ranges that I want. Typically what I find with this kind of patching is that as soon as I start punching in the sequencers and patching the sequencers up to the voices, then I suddenly end up with my sounds going in completely different directions. Things are faster, slower, brighter, darker than I ever wanted them to be, and then I've got to tame the whole system once again, retune all of the ranges. So it really becomes a balancing act between keeping everything tuned the way that I want it, but also being able to stretch and morph it into some of the directions that I want to get to. Well, in the background, I've also had another section running that I put together a few weeks ago, and that has used up a lot of cables. We haven't heard it or seen it yet, but it is the cherry on top of this whole patch in terms of polyphony so far. So I am just going to turn on the melody, take out the counterpart, take out the bass, pick out the telharmonic, and then I'll bring in my newest section. And let's go take a look and see what it is that I've got going and how I managed to get it all patched up. I hope that you've enjoyed this video series so far. Please like and subscribe. I'm trying to increase my YouTube subscribers. And if you'd like, please join my Patreon to help me make more patches, more videos, and more music. Thank you so much, and we'll see you next time.